We are on the line with Greg. How you doing today, Greg?
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, well, I've been better, but anyway, we won't get into that. Nobody needs to be bothered.
Life's so hard.
It is sometimes. Of course, it could always be worse.
So damn hard. It's not fair.
No, could always be worse. We were talking to somebody, and or I think it was my wife. She was telling someone of our current issues, which are important to us right now, but the person she was talking to said how a relative of theirs had a spinal infection and maybe paralyzed. So then you're like, yeah, maybe we don't have problems.
That's the thing, the could be worse mantra. It's a healthy mantra for you to say. I always find, like, when you're telling people your problems and they tell you that, well, it could be worse. It's like it doesn't come to you as wisdom. It's like, yeah, well, screw you.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's my usual.
But it is true. Like, it's a good thing to remind yourself it could be worse no matter what the problem is.
Well, yeah, we could be in a war zone, right? So
yeah,
maybe we will be before long. Who knows?
Who knows where this is all going? Which is why we should talk about gardening and the economic impact of gardening. That's today's topic.
Perfect.
If you own land, I would say right up until like 50 years ago, the whole point of owning land was using it to produce something.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe 100 years ago, except for anyone working in a factory. But one of the benefits of owning land is that you can use that land as a resource. It has resources, and you can use those to your benefit. Somehow, a number of years ago, we just lost our connection to all of that, and we just became straight consumers.
Yeah.
But not producers. We produce for other people, and they pay us a bit of money, and we use that to consume. We're being told what to buy, and also we're being hammered with the message that food is something you have to buy. Just period.
Yeah.
Food is something you have to buy. It's not like you can just walk in the forest and find it, which you can during certain times of the year. And and we're also sort of, having a garden, that's just so hard. Well, not once you get good at it. Mm-hmm. It's like us driving a stick shift.
Right.
It is hard. It's really hard to learn.
Yes.
But then like a week later, you're awesome at it. And like 3 years after week 2, you're like maybe a tiny bit better than you were in week 2.
That's true. That's true.
You're like 90% of your expertise is there. You're like, you gain an extra 10% after like 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
you
right.
Learn
that's
how
right.
to like change gears without using the clutch or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's the same sort of thing. Gardening just becomes like I would almost liken it to being in a martial art. Like when someone's learning all the movements. If you watch like the Karate Kid or whatever, sand the floor and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's all these movements are awkward and they don't feel right. But then after a little while, going through all those movements almost becomes like an enjoyable ritual.
Right.
Like you're practicing some sort of meditation or you're doing something you're good at and all the movements just feel like natural movements and you get into a rhythm. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what it's like once you start turning your property into a food-producing aspect of your life. And I'm not saying it has to be wholesale. Anything I'm saying on this show, bear in mind that I'm talking about just turning the dial in a different direction than where it's been. If you have no garden, start with a small garden.
Yeah.
And then, you don't have to like be off the grid with nothing, and producing all your own food and living like a pioneer year one. That's crazy.
Yeah.
You sort of put that as just like, if you were to join a karate class, it's not like you want to be the next, UFC champion.
But I do.
But I do, exactly. Then I'm the baddest man on the planet.
Yeah.
But, like you would like to get there. Right, yeah. That's like the end goal. Maybe it's some sort of abstract end goal, but right. You're not going to get
no
there,
exactly.
Right? No offense to you.
You've never fought me.
You're fierce, dangerous man.
I am tiny but tough. No, but the point is,
like a sledgehammer.
Yeah, it's a good thing we're friends. I think the point is the way that you pitch gardening, with the permaculture approach, is even more realistic for what you're explaining to people, because you don't have to go from 0 to 100 knowing every little thing.
No, just get out there and fumble around and, try something, do a bit of reading and take a stab at it this year and learn from that, and then take another stab at it next year. And man, year after year after year, it does. Gardening is a long-term, it is an act of nurturing. I found it to be very good preparation for being a parent, because there's a lot of failure involved.
That's a good analogy.
But your gardening is, because you're building soil. If you're a permaculture gardener, it's a multi-year project, but you stay positive, because you're moving towards better and better and better soil, which means better and a more balanced ecology in your garden. So your pests, everything, long term, everything's going to sort of balance out, and everything's going to be better.
Yeah.
But this year, next year, whatever, it might not get there, and that's not a big deal. And you don't have to throw it. You're still going to be better off than you were. You're still going to be getting exercise that you don't have to pay a gym membership for. You're going to be getting more fresh air than you normally would, because you have to be out there.
Right.
You're going to be getting healthy, free, organic food. For your exercise is going to be creating food. I don't know one gym that promises that. And
good tasting food, hopefully.
And that's right. And that goes back to the topic of today's show, the economic impact of gardening. And the idea that, I talk to a lot of people, and there's this general idea that it's a hobby, and that it's something and hobbies are, generally speaking, the things you spend money on that aren't productive. And I don't include gardening in that. Right. I know there's people that take that approach to gardening, a sort of hobby mentality. But I take it as a food prep, it's a food security activity. I mean, I enjoy it the way someone might enjoy a hobby. It's pleasurable to me to be outside in my garden.
Yeah.
But my goal isn't just I'm here having fun. Like, I am making food out of nothing, sort of thing. And I need to, for me, in any given year, the value of the food that comes out has to be greater than the costs that I put in. And I'm not counting my time in that.
Right.
And I think that's a mistake a lot of people do. Well, I'd be better off using my time for this, that, or the other thing. I think the reality is that you can only spend so many hours a day working. So, if I spent 2 hours in my garden, I could make more money doing consulting for 2 hours. But, boy, there's got to be at least 2 hours of my day where I'm not working.
Yeah.
And doing something physical that's good for me mentally and all that sort of stuff. And that's a lot more productive than Facebooking or something like that.
Yeah.
I'd say enjoy, maritimegardening.com and Facebook, Maritime Gardening at Facebook. But
yeah, exactly. Definitely spend your time there.
But only for a little while, then get out in your garden.
Yeah, that's right.
But so that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, awesome.
And, to start, I think I'll use an analogy. Because my mother, when I was growing up, my father, he had a garden, of course, but he also had a boat. And my mother always said a boat is a hole in the water that you throw money into. And I'm not talking like a little, this was like a 20-something foot boat, made of plywood and fiberglass. And it just absorbed, money.
Yeah.
I mean, we back then there was actually fish in the ocean. So, but I don't even think the fish really, I don't think it balanced out. We did get fish. And I think it paid for some of his gas. You could pull into Eastern Passage and unload some of your fish and trade it for gas or something there. But for the most part, the boat was just a cost item.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people feel that way about gardening. And if you go to a garden center, it certainly seems it's all about buying.
Yeah.
It's growing seems to be the bottom of the list. And I don't think that's necessarily the case. I think if you're gardening in a mindful way, and if you have it as your goal that your garden is going to produce an amount of food, the value of which is greater than the money you put into it that year, or maybe year one, if you have nothing, if you have no garden, and depending on how elaborate you want your garden to be, you might break even year one. It really depends on what you plant and all that sort of stuff. But certainly over time, your garden gets bigger.
Yeah.
You just get better at it, and maybe you start saving seeds and so on. But over time, it will be a producer for you. If you think about, a pack of seeds costs $1.99.
Yeah.
And depending on what you plant, that can produce anywhere from $20 to $50 worth of produce.
Yeah.
Depends on what you're growing. Like if you're growing kale, a pack of seeds will fill a bed of kale, maybe even two if you're really judicious with your seeds.
Yeah.
But at a bare minimum, you're going to be growing a garden that's 4 by 10 of kale, and that is, a number of meals a week. And you can break the stalks off, and it grows back during the sort of height of growing season in June, July, August, September. Or, if it's a bad year, maybe it doesn't start producing really till July. And that depends on you and your transplants and all that sort of stuff, the growing conditions where you are and whatever your microclimate is.
Yeah.
I'm harvesting kale right up until about October, November. And then it really starts to slow down and it doesn't keep up with the eating.
Right.
So, and we eat a lot of kale. It's, right now I don't have any kale.
Yeah.
So I buy 2 heads a week, and we're eating less than we would in the summer. We would eat maybe 2 or 3 times that in the summer. So I'm spending right now $6 a week on kale, whereas normally I would eat about $12 worth of kale a week. And I would do that for months.
Right.
So that $2 is saving me a heck of a lot of money, right? And now I don't even buy kale seeds anymore unless I want to try something new. I've got my red Russian kale, which I like. My wife likes Scotch curly kale, so I have to get some of that now. She told me clearly that she prefers. Well, that makes it's better in salads.
Okay.
The red Russian kale is not great in a salad.
Yeah.
Anyway, so for $2, you're getting from anywhere from 20 to 50, even possibly $100 worth of produce. I can't think of one Wall Street investment, unless you're totally crooked and on the inside.
Yeah.
It's going to give you a 10% or, a 25% or, a return like that. Just an incredible return. And I think when we think about investments, we just think about these sort of mystical bank, stock market type things. An investment is anything where you spend a certain amount of money and you get value out of that.
Yeah.
In the crudest sense. So I can't think of a greater way to take a certain amount of money and create a greater amount of value from that. You're literally you're buying a bit of seeds, and the other inputs are rain and sun, and you get more value than you put in. Your $2 becomes $20, $50, $100 on account of sun, rain, and seeds. And remember, I'm a permaculture gardener, so I don't have to buy this fertilizer or that fertilizer, or all these exotic things that you add. I just put mulches on top and create an environment that the microorganisms and the worms and stuff want to be in, and they improve the soil gradually over time, make it better and better and healthier. So you're working with them. Your employees. Right? It's almost like slave labor, but it's not. It's symbiosis.
Yeah.
You're giving them what they want, and they just hang around in there and just make your soil better on account of what they do, because that's how the system works.
Yeah.
But instead of it being a forest, you're growing things you want.
It sounds so simple and like a no-brainer, but yet a lot of people just don't do it.
I think we've just literally had it knocked out of us, because this would have been totally natural to anyone, if you go back 50, 60, 70, 80 years. Anyone that lived through the Great Depression, my grandparents, their generation, this was just something people would do, on varying scales and to varying levels.
Yeah.
So that's seeds, but also perennials. I can't, if we're talking about an investment, perennials they go way beyond that, because you buy them once if they're hardy for your zone. I have perennials here that are hardy for my zone, and you have to be very careful when you're buying them. I often buy them as transplants just because they're ready to go and a little bit easier. And so what if a transplant costs $3.99?
Yeah.
You're never going to have to buy that again, and it gets like bigger and bigger and bigger every year, and you can start breaking them up and putting them in different places.
Right.
We moved here in 2011, and my garden got bigger and bigger and bigger. My gardens sort of orbit and grow sort of every year, because you can't. It's just too much to make a huge garden in one year.
Yeah.
But I'm finally to a point now. So I had nothing. 2011, it was just dirt. I wouldn't even say soil. I would say dirt, which is like gardeners, you're not supposed to call dirt soil.
Right.
But this was such poor soil. I've got so many herbs now. I mean, I cook a lot that I don't need to buy herbs.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't cook the way people did in the 50s where they use like half a teaspoon of, no, I use like, probably 4 or 5 tablespoons of herbs a week sort of thing, at least, maybe more. Right? I use a lot of different herbs in my cooking. And I've got so much growing in my garden now that I have enough to last until the new stuff starts growing. And next year I'll have so much I can start giving it to people.
Nice. I look forward to
friends, it. Family out there, you're getting herbs for Christmas.
Nice. I'm looking forward to a box of herbs.
Not the illegal kind.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and because it's just the nature of most of those perennials are, if they're herbs, they're weed-like. But there's also, trees and different kinds of berry bushes and those, and trees and bushes and those sorts of things. I would check your expectations. They are worth the money, but they're worth buying if you are invested in your property and you're going to stay there for a long time. Because depending on your soil and the conditions, I mean, some of these things take a while to get acclimatized and get used to where you are. And so, I mean, I planted apple trees in my backyard, 3 years ago, and they're still, they're still not doing great. I planted them the year we had that insane winter, and it really that year damaged them. And then last year I didn't get anything off of any of them. They I don't even know if they flowered. So something really, they're still alive, but they really got damaged. But this year they'll be fine. But what I'm trying to say is that, I know that in a year or 2 or 3 or whatever, I'm going to start getting apples. And once those roots get established and the tree figures out how to get along in my situation here, I'll get more and more apples every year. Right. So yeah, I spent, $25 or $30 a tree or whatever. But the long term, over the next 10, 20, 30 years, if I'm still around, I'm going to get a ridiculous amount of apples, right? So that'll totally pay for itself.
Oh, yeah.
And then there's the other thing where, the gardening, once you have a garden and all this stuff starts growing, it drives your diet. And
that's true.
You start feeling like you got to sort of keep up with everything. So you start eating all the stuff you're growing, and you end up buying less stuff from the grocery store. And then you also get healthier because a greater proportion of your diet is plant-based. And I don't want to sound like some sort of, vegetarian preacher. I'm not a vegetarian. I had prime rib last night. But,
no, but it's true. It's true. I've been listening to some other shows, and more things are pointing towards, the more, not necessarily going straight vegan, but the more you can incorporate vegetables and fruit into your diet, obviously the better you're going to be.
Oh man, and the perception that it costs less is flawed. Especially, I think that's literally us being hoodwinked. Yes. If you think about per weight, just go in the grocery store and look how much the meat or the fish or whatever you're buying costs per kilogram, and then look how much the vegetables cost per kilogram. You can get a lot of vegetables, especially if you spread it out between your greens and your different roots and stuff like that. So it's and you just start feeling better, and you're getting very full. But instead of having like a pound of meat in your guts, you've got like a pound of greens and stuff. And the gardening gets easier as you get better at it. It's just going to your garden will get larger every year, and it'll be easier to do, which it's counterintuitive, but believe me, that's how it works. You want more every year, and you get more every year.
Nice.
And I mean, to me, this, since about the dawn, since we had agriculture, this is what owning land was about, growing things on it. And it's only been a handful of years, and when you think on the scale of time, that we've lost our connection to all of that. I have a graph that I have on my business website, which projects, based on different assumptions for how much you spend a week on produce. I'll put this in the show notes.
We'll put a link to it.
What you can expect to get as a return. When I worked for government, I used to do something like this. So here's the simplest way of putting it. If you spend $20 a week on produce, okay, and this is assuming, I think, 6 months of the year, May to October was the assumption. For me, it's really producing heavily from June to November for me. If you spend $20 a week on produce and you switch and start getting that from your garden, then in year 1, that's going to save you $480 on groceries.
Nice.
After 2 years, it saved you $960. After 3 years, $1,400. 4 years, $1,900, right? So, I mean, we're getting into a trip to Disney World here, right?
Yeah.
If you spend $40 a week on produce, it's $960 year one, $1,900 year two, almost $2,880 year three, right, and so on, right? So, if you're a heavy vegetable consumer, or you want to be, and you start organizing your life around that garden and so on, the savings can be considerable as you go up that scale. So it's totally, when you from week to week, you're saving $20, but that adds up.
Oh yeah.
So it's totally worth doing, and
sure.
I recommend it to anyone.
Yeah, which kind of brings us into another project that you and I have been working on.
Yeah. Anyone that listens to the show knows that I'm a frugal person, because I'm always talking about ways to save money and ways to get the most out of your garden, and how to get around a lot of the costs that people tend to associate with gardening. And it might come as a surprise to some people, but every aspect of my life I come at that way.
Yeah, that's right.
So, I mean, if you might have looked at on the website, I had some pictures of cold frames that I built. Well, I've been meaning to build those for 4 years, but I've been waiting for someone to throw windows away so I can get the glass for free, right? Just waiting, right? Yeah. So as soon as the glass was available, boom, had the cold frames. So this other podcast, I think we're going to call it, just because it seems to be the theme, Stop the Madness. But what it's about is topics like what we discussed today, but not focused on gardening. It expands to all aspects of just trying to get through life with a home and a family, or trying to get through life in general, where you're faced with a world that is designed to fool you out of every penny you have.
Yeah.
And the notion is that, I think if you took a person from like 1918 and transported them to today, and if that person saw what people spend their money on nowadays, they'd think we were nuts, buying bottles of water when water's free, and spending money on all these different sorts of things. Not having a garden in your backyard, for instance. If you have, you're wealthy enough to own land, why aren't you growing some food in there, right? And things like that. Yeah. So, every week we're going to talk about different things. There's different themes we're going to get on, but it spans the whole gamut of even the children's birthday parties, or what some of these things we're planning to discuss. Well,
you'll have to tune in and find out. But basically, the most suitable name we agreed on was Stop the Madness, because every subject covered, essentially, in our mind, even though I know in many of them I participate in fully, are mad. They're just mad. So it's Stop the Madness.
Bringing the wisdom of the past to the problems of today is that, we discuss a phenomenon, a cultural something we do that, we have a certain amount of costs and expenditures, and, like a children's birthday party, there's a certain way that's supposed to happen nowadays.
Yeah.
If you went back, 80 years ago, it wouldn't look anything like, it's almost like planning a bloody wedding, right?
It is, and I just came out of one and going into another one. So yeah, we'll have to do that one before.
A whole episode on that, I think. So all those sorts of topics. So if you like, on this podcast, if you like that, when we're discussing those sort of concepts, if you enjoy that, that's definitely the podcast for you. And really interested in people's input and what they think on that. It's just something that's on my mind. It's connected to this show, but it's a distinct different topic. Yes. And I think it's really topical for this period in time. Uncertain economic times, and a lot of people are struggling with making ends meet and that sort of stuff. But even people that are doing okay, they could have ridiculous amounts of debt.
Yes.
So it's they're sort of house poor or whatever. That term, house poor. So we're going to talk about a broad variety of topics related to that, and try to make it all hang together, and hopefully it's useful and helps people.
Yeah. It'll be fun too. So yeah, by all means, check the show notes for a link to that. I believe the domain name is going to be stopthemadnesspodcast.com. And hopefully by the time you're listening to this, we'll have that up, as well as having the show up on iTunes and various other places. But we're just having so much fun, we decided to do it again.
That's right.
No, we did actually. Craig and I do enjoy doing these shows, but it wasn't so much that we have so much time on our hands that what would you like to do with it? It was these are important things we felt needed to be talked about, and as far as we can tell, they're not really being talked about. So that's where we're at.